Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Major Rostermania developments as to especially what 100 Thieves are cooking up for next season. Over the last couple of weeks, it's come to pass that pretty much every player on Thieves is available as they look to do a full rebuild for next year. They may, however, keep many of their players, they may get rid of many of their players, or they may look to acquire other players from elsewhere. With the Zekken rumours, they want to partner with Cryo going into the upcoming season. Whether they could get that deal done, but also who is going to be the one making the decisions. Reports emerging yesterday that potentially Sgares could be back in the building. Former 100T coach from a little while ago, he may well be back to lead the ship and make some of the decisions for the upcoming season. Would this be a good idea, especially after all the controversy with Sgares earlier this year in the Valorant world? Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. We're going to start here because yesterday the America's Ascension officially got underway, at least the playoff stage of it. We got a couple of big results. The notable one really being Envy versus 9Z. They took a pretty dominant 2-0 win. The latest was a 13-2. Absolute demolition job. That was on 9Z's pick as well. Extra pop in the usual suspects. Kane Zero was actually bottom fragging, which when that happens, well, usually they're still going to win, right? Because the rest of the guys take over. Then it was a 13-11, close fought affair on the Sunset, but Envy actually ran away with it with 6 straight rounds, 6 out of the last 8 rounds, 7 out of the last 8 rounds to end up taking the Sunset dub. So, yeah, big performance out of Baby J, the final map of the series, also known as Inspire. And, yeah, so they start off with a 1-0 in the Swiss stage. Team Solid start off 1-0 as well after their victory against Shinden, and then the other 2 games happening today, which is, well, TSM start off against Stellar Gaming and Winthrop University are going to play 6 Karma. Then will be the second round of Swiss stage, etc, etc, to get to 4 teams make it to the playoffs and 4 teams do not. This is how it's getting on in the Pacific. I'll just hit the refresh here because I think that now's, yeah, they just concluded their series against, they were playing Full Sense, so that was an 0-2 for Full Sense. They're now 0-3 and you know, they're going to be cooked obviously. Nongshim did manage to get to 1-1. Boom Esports at 2-0, so again 6 of these teams will make it through to the playoffs. The other big result yesterday was Dragon Ranger Gaming getting the win against Octagonal, what's it called, Disposition Gaming. It cracks me up every time I look at this, but unfortunately no more for Octagonal Disposition Gaming. They got 2-0'd by DRG. You know, DRG got the job done. Again, 13-3, 13-7. They handled business when it mattered. They're still probably the favourites. I don't know what you guys think about that. But Rare Atom, they took down Any Questions Gaming, right? So this was Simon's team, of course. Rare Atom, they've made it back to the grand finals of Ascension again. 13-3 on the Sunset, 13-10 on the Ascent. Simon tried his best on the Omen. It wasn't good enough. So there are 3 teams remaining. One of them will qualify for the China League. And it's a decider game today. Actually, I think this game's already underway. Yeah, here we go. Let me hit the refresh. Any Questions Gaming currently 1-0 down and about to be 2-0 down, it looks like, as well. So they lost the Sunset 13-6. The Ascent is 11-5. As I say, it's a best of 5 here, right? But probably DRG are going to get the win there. Who knows? Maybe Simon and the boys can make a remarkable comeback. But if DRG do win, they will then play Rare Atom tomorrow to decide who actually qualifies back to the league. It would be so frustrating for Rare Atom, right, if it happens again, because I would expect DRG to probably win, right? Last year, XLG qualified. DRG, of course, was still around as well. Both of those teams made the World Championship. So DRG, of course, are going to be the favourites to make it back through again through Ascension and qualify back for the Pro League. But Rare Atom have been in their 3rd finals. They lost to DRG in 2023. They lost to XLG in 2024. And, well, who knows what they're going to do this time. It'd be really great to see them win. But, like, I do want DRG back in the league. So, unfortunately, that's probably what's going to happen. But as it stands, nothing, of course, guaranteed. Let's talk about some roster stuff. Sentinels, they have a lot of decisions to make, of course, over the next couple of weeks. We know that they've been doing lots of trials, lots of scrims over the last few days. There was one comment I just wanted to quickly touch on. So this was a kind of wholesome little moment here. And Sentinels did a tweet, Send Bundle 2026 just got leaked. There was a reply here from Zelsis who says, when he's 18, so, you know, talking about 8-year-old brother here made this thing, he can carry me when I'm 40. So, just interesting because Zelsis We don't know what his future looks like exactly. He has been spotted in a number of the Sentinels scrims. We know that he's an important component to Sentinels and frankly fits their brand and their culture extremely well. Solid player for sure. Is he a player that some have suggested could be swapped out? Yes. Is he a player that they should swap out? I'm not so convinced. Guess the question was, with the likes of Son, maybe with the likes of Ethan, with questions flying around about maybe retirement, whether they could consider to call it a day. There were some questions whether Sgares could do similarly, but with him doing this tweet to say, look, when I'm 40, I'm still going to be grinding, and, this 8-year-old brother, when he's 18, will carry me, maybe implies that Sgares definitely feels like he still has a long career ahead of him. There's some other roster drama elsewhere, just rumours on this one, what Gentlemates are cooking up, but yeah, it's all going on really in Europe right now. Mini, we think, is going to be joining after pretty much saying that he will be, and then Bipo, Italian player, looking to join as well. So, what are they cooking, I guess? What are they cooking over at Gentlemates? That is a very good question, because they kicked Koi out for this, right? So they better do a good job, I guess, on paper, because, yeah, Koi haven't been very competitive the last couple of years, but they will certainly feel some type of way if Gentlemates don't at least form a decently competitive team in the upcoming season. Now, Fnatic, we know that Boaster is staying around for the upcoming season. There are some players, their contracts are expiring. They will need to re-sign. Other players are locked in for the longer term. Now, Crashy let's not forget, did a very interesting post after the World Championship where he said, basically, it's been a pleasure, with an orange heart emoji. And there were questions whether Crashy would prefer to return to the Americas, whether he would get a good enough offer from the Americas to make that valid, or whether he was going to stay at Fnatic anyway. The implication here from Kojo is that Fnatic will, after all, be sticking it out entirely, which shouldn't be a massive surprise. Again, when a team comes so close and loses in heartbreaking ways many a time, it might be obvious to be like, oh, we'll stick it out and you'll get there. I don't know how often that really tends to work. I mean, it was the case with Paper X, right? They came close on quite a few occasions. Then it took a roster change for them to get over the line. Not saying that's necessary for Fnatic. I mean, they were so close to winning, of course, the World Championship this year, to winning Toronto, to winning, of course, the World Cup in Riyadh as well. All of those big tournaments, they fell just short. But I think many would want their team to stay together to see how it would go. And Kojo is like, look, 1 out of 6 contracts done. We will get 6 out of 6. And then he says 6 contracts will get signed. Yes. And then the question was, okay, what 6 contracts? Because there are 3 expiring contracts, so why would you need to sign 6? But as he says, there are 3 players and 3 coaches that all need to be locked down as well. So the implication being that roster is staying the same for next season. Time will tell whether that actually happens. They've got their own thing they're running as well later in the year, so they won't be able to attend the 10 Invitational. It's going to be DRX, Nongshim, Wolves and Heretics this year. Fnatic, as they say, were invited, but they had to decline. That's happening on the 8th to 9th of November in a couple of weeks' time. So big tournaments still on the horizon, of course, right now in Valorant. There's a lot of Valorant still going on, while there is a lot happening when it comes to Rostermania. Subscribe if you're new, all that good stuff. Martin apparently is going to be joining Gentlemate as well. He was on Carmine Corps very recently, so Ari says sources suggest he's going to be on Gentlemate. So they're forming a kind of an all-over-the-place team, really. Again, they're not choosing specific players from specific regions or specific countries. They're just going for it, right? I think Martin's a good pickup, to be fair, and getting him from Carmine Corps could be a good idea. There's also the possibility around Patty Tech. Not to say the Gentlemates necessarily. There has been some talk about whether Heretics could bring Patty Tech back in. But as he says, still contracted with Liquid, but I'm allowed to explore my options, and by that I'm looking for a new team. Qualified for all international events this year with Liquid, and, a player who can absolutely do a job for a team. Liquid may keep him around, but also they may not, and if they don't, I'm sure he'll get an offer somewhere else, but Patty Tech could be on the move. The key development, though, of last night was this one. So Zomzinho and Akamari, they put together this report on the new 100 Thieves head coach. So there was lots of talk about this recently. There were rumours that actually the current TSM head coach has been in conversations, but of course he's out in Brazil right now for VALORANT Ascension to try and qualify TSM for the Pro League. Now, sources say that Sgares is back. Now, Sgares, quite the character, right? Great player to watch, great personality in his day in Counter-Strike, of course makes the transition to VALORANT, especially notably in 2022 when it was Sgares and DDK who went from caster duo effectively to coming in to form the VALORANT roster, where Sgares was leading things up and DDK were making some decisions. And look, did they make some reasonable decisions? Yeah. Did they make some poor decisions? Yeah. And eventually it all collapsed and well, Sgares left about a year or so later after the team didn't really work as well as they might have liked to. Then Sgares worked a bit with Shopify Rebellion, as we know, helping with their roster, did a lot of content creating over the last year or so, and then got into some big drama recently when earlier this year he was exposing certain players in this tier 2 match fixing ring, to which there is likely some truth, maybe not entirely the way that he presented it, and of course he was frustrated that, Mr. Funhaver interrupted some of his digging, some of his research. It gave some of the guilty parties time, he believes anyway, to delete some of their evidence. Riot then came out and said that they couldn't find any concrete evidence on the matter, and after all of this drama, Sgares effectively left the VALORANT world, right? He said, look, given what's happened, I'm not particularly interested in VALORANT any longer. But if 100 Thieves come knocking, apparently the story on that one has potentially changed and Sgares could be back in calling the shots and making the decisions for 2026. Not necessarily as the coach, but as potentially their head of VALORANT operations. So we'll see. This time it looks like he might be taking on a different role where there could be a different coach on the team, but Sgares is still leading the charge when it comes to the decision making. And this, of course, is critical because the coach can make some decisions and helps the roster, but the head of VALORANT operations, he decides the team, you would think, on paper. And that's particularly important because right now all of those players are available or potentially not available, depending what apparently Sgares decides. Is this a good idea for 100 Thieves to go back down this route? And also, what will Sean do, right? Which players will he keep? Which players might he look to get? We know that there have been big rumours lately that they might be interested in trying to get Zekin away from Sentinels. 100 Thieves want to make sure that they get their partnership renewed in the VCT for 2027, and as a result, they are apparently going to commit pretty heavily to this season with budget, bringing in a head of VALORANT operations, in addition to a coach I guess we'll see in due course. But what will Sean decide? Because if there is now a key decision maker over there, and if it is Sgares, he will have his opinions on what to do with Asuna, what to do with Cryo, what to do with Xander and the rest of those guys as well, in terms of whether they stay or whether they go. So very much interested in your thoughts on that in the comments below. Pretty remarkable 1 year of struggles, and well, Sean comes back into the picture. So intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. One final scrimbuck here, and you can guess who it's between. It's Sentinels and it's Cloud9. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.